upon a time, there was a little green magic man. His name was Satchkin Patchkin, and he lived like a leaf in an apple tree. The apple tree leaned away from the hedge at the bottom of a long and tidy garden. At the other end of the long and tidy garden stood the small, neat cottage where Mother Farthing lived. The thatch on its tip-tilted roof was new, and its well-fitting doors had been painted blue. Its curtains were gay, its bright windows shone, and all of its neglected appearance had gone. While the men were working on the cottage, Mother Farthing was working on the garden. She weeded the pathways and trimmed the tall hedge and set out a border with stones at the edge. The rubbish was burned and the earth was new turned and 9 rows of cabbages planted. The old woman rose at daybreak to bake her cakes and pastries and took them fresh to the market. Such good luck she had with her wares that she bought a small donkey to carry the heavy basket. When her cakes were all gone, she rode merrily home and set to work in her garden. "I will plant and sow and dig and hoe," she said to herself, "and next year I will have a stall in the marketplace and sell good green things from my garden along with my cakes and pastries." The old woman reckoned without her landlord, though. He was a lean man, a mean man, a man without a smile. He came riding by one morning as she was leading the donkey into the lane. "What have you in your basket, old woman?" he asked. The old woman dropped him a curtsy. "Cakes and pastries, sir," she answered, folding back the snowy cloth for him to see. The farmer leant down and took out a honey cake, stuffing it hungrily into his eager mouth. Crumbs fell over his chin and onto his waistcoat. Flicking and licking his fingers, he said, "I have come for your rent. If you have not enough to pay me, I will take the donkey instead." Hastily the old woman began to fumble in her skirts for the pocket she wore at her waist. "Here is the rent," she said, speedily paying it out. She had no desire to lose her little donkey. "It is hardly enough," grumbled the farmer, counting the coins. "You live here in comfort and pay me a miserable rent." Mother Farthing was about to say that the cottage had been a miserable cottage until she herself had set it to rights, but she thought better of it and held her tongue. "You shall make me a gift," the lean, mean man went on. "A score of your cakes and pastries will do for a start." With a sigh, Mother Farthing went indoors to fetch a platter. She piled it with cakes and pastries and wrapped a clean cloth about it. "My customers in the market will go short, I fear, this morning," she said. "Bake another batch, then," said the farmer, and taking the platter, rode quickly away. The next day the old woman rose before dawn and set to work in her spotless kitchen, mixing and making and busily baking her delicious cakes and pies. Milk she had in plenty, and eggs she had in plenty, and a basin of berries fresh on her sill every day. She made cakes with honey all sticky and nice. She used ginger and saffron and currants and spice, and the best of her baking she saved every day for the little green magic man. When the cooking was done, the kitchen cleaned, and the basket packed, Mother Farthing made herself a breakfast of bread and milk and went out to see to the donkey. She was leading him into the lane when the landlord came riding by. "My wife was well pleased with your gift, old woman," he said. "She hopes you will send her another score today." The old woman sighed and went indoors for a platter. She knew that she dare not refuse the farmer's request for fear he would turn her out of her little cottage. "My customers will have to go short again today," she said as she took the cakes and pies from the basket. "You must bake another batch then," said the farmer, and he took the platter and rode quickly away. Sadly the old woman went back to the cottage and prepared for cooking again. She creamed and she iced, she sugared and spiced, and she sighed all the while she worked. The next day and the next, the farmer came for a score of the old woman's cakes. The next day and the next, she had to return to her cottage and bake another batch to fill her basket. The smell in her kitchen was spicy and nice, but she did not like having to do her work twice. On the fourth day, when Mother Farthing returned from the market with fresh supplies of flour and sugar and honey, she sat down to count the coins in her purse and found she had less than enough put aside for the rent. "I must ask the advice of the little green magic man," she said, and went to the door to call him. "Satchkin Patchkin, hear me lift the latchkin. Satchkin Patchkin, hear me lift the latch." Like the ring of a far-off silvery bell came the sweet, familiar answer. "You have forgotten to throw the thimble into the milk jug." "It was not milk I wanted," said the old woman, and she told him why she had called. "We will see what tomorrow will bring," said Satchkin Patchkin, and he drifted away in the sunlight like a rose petal blown by the wind. The next day the farmer demanded the basket full of cakes. "You shall give me my harvest supper, old woman," he said, paying no heed to her protests. "It will save my wife the trouble of making a feast." "But my customers, sir," cried Mother Farthing. "How shall I satisfy them with no cakes at all today?" The farmer laughed and snatched the basket from Mother Farthing's hands. "Bake another batch, old woman," he cried as he rode away. "Bake another batch." From the sky overhead there came ringing, chill as winter rain stinging, the voice of the little green magic man. "Satchkin Patchkin, bake another batchkin. Satchkin Patchkin, bake another batch." Pie, pasty, and cake began quickly to make themselves in the old woman's kitchen. From jar and from tin, from jug and from bin, the ingredients flew together. Wood piled on the fire. The flames grew higher and higher till the oven was good and hot. Then batch after batch of cakes slid into the oven, were cooked and came out again. They rolled over the floor and out of the door and up the hill to the farm. With sackfuls of sugar and sackfuls of flour, with eggs, milk and honey, hour after hour, cakes made themselves and conveyed themselves to the home of the lean, mean man. His windows were covered, his doorways were blocked, his yards were all filled, and his barns were all stocked. From over the meadow where the moon flung dark shadows came the sound of the midnight bell. At once the old woman's kitchen set itself to rights. Her basket was packed and her table was stacked with wares for tomorrow's market. There was more than enough of the magical stuff to pay her rent for a month, but the cakes in the farmyard high on the hill were turned into little round pebbles, knobbly and hard. They rolled over the yard and blocked every gateway and door. Taking her candle, the old woman climbed the narrow stairs to her bed. Down in the dark behind her, she heard a familiar song. "My name is Satchkin Patchkin, and I live like a leaf in the apple tree."